Substitute. Episode 10. Paul stopped at his mother's house that morning because he felt he was a little impatient with her the last time they spoke. It was either he never wanted to hear his brother's name mentioned, or the recent challenges at work frustrated him. "I wanted you to know that I am praying along with you for Austin's safety and for us all," Paul said as they stood facing each other in a spacious living room. A pile of pictures lay on the sofa, and he could tell she had been taking a lonely trip down memory lane. "That's good. May God answer all our prayers." Imwe's response was dry, and he watched her lower her frame into a nearby seat. "Do you remember the story of the prodigal son in the Bible?" she asked. "I do." Paul was familiar with the story. Not only had he listened to it as a child in Sunday school, it was a remarkable story, but he did not understand where his mother was going with it. The father in the parable appeared to love one son more than the other, but that wasn't true. It only appeared that way because that son had been separated from the family for a long time. Paul settled into the seat beside her. "Paul, it may appear that my heart goes out more to Austin, but that's only because I feel like I still need to prove my love to him," Imwe explained, reaching out for his hand. She added, "I have never felt that way with you." "Mama, I understand," he replied. "Good." She was relieved they were finally on the same page. "Are you staying for lunch?" "I need to rush back to the office." "You could come back later. I'll hold on so we have dinner together." "I'm taking Lara to dinner tonight," he announced as his mother's eyes brightened, so he quickly chipped in. "No, I do not have a ring." Thereafter, he watched her smile evaporate. "So it's just a romantic date night?" she asked. "We will spend some quality time together because it's been a while." Imwe sighed. "I look forward to you marrying that girl because apart from me, she is the only woman I know who can tolerate you." "Mama, you know I speak the truth at all times," she said. "I will marry Lara when I am ready," Paul assured. "I know you cannot bear the thought of getting married and then something happens to you along the way. But you, Mama, let's not go into that now." Paul rose, and Imwe knew better not to probe, so she let it go. Jedediah was an asset, and if he ever doubted it, then the warm welcome that awaited his return to the cartel proved him wrong. It was a daytime party held in one of Tiger's mansions with a few members and associates present. Tiger breezed in and out of the party, spending 20 minutes, long enough to brief Jedediah on his new assignment as the two men met behind closed doors. Immediately Tiger left, Chinedu had enough time to pick Jedediah's brains. "Great to have you back." They shook hands at the living room bar as they settled to have drinks. Professional servers roamed the room to make sure guests were catered for. There was also good music and a few random ladies who kept the men company. Jedediah had an analytical brain and a criminal mind. He possessed both the business acumen that could place him in an office environment and the street credibility required to thrive in any drug cartel. This rare versatility made him one of Tiger's main men for classified assignments, including assassinations. Jedediah ran his hands through his spiky hair and scratched his unkempt beard. "I feel like a bird right now." Jedediah emptied his glass as his rectangular face sparkled at his unbelievable fate. "Your name is all over the media, so I bet you're also enjoying your newfound fame. It's like you've become a movie star overnight," Chinedu said as Jedediah raised his bony shoulders to laugh. The guy was an expert in making caustic comments and it never ceased to amuse him. "Seriously, it must feel like a major comeback for you," Chinedu probed. "I'm just grateful. Tiger did a lot." "Yeah!" Chinedu nodded, and with a sudden gesture, he chipped in some words of praise. "Congratulations on the new road to saw the lab some weeks ago, and I learned it's already taking shape." "Yeah!" Jedediah turned to the barman and motioned for a refill. Chinedu could easily understand why Tiger preferred Jedediah. The guy always wore a poker face and barely spoke, but was full of action. He had also proven his loyalty several times, especially with his recent feat with the agency which preserved Tiger's life. Jedediah had been the one to deduce that the men from the agency who laid the siege on them that morning were not as many as they assumed. If he had not confronted them with a sudden gun battle, Tiger would have been behind bars or even dead by now. His bravery was highly appreciated, and no wonder Tiger was ready to give up anything for him. For a split second, Chinedu flirted with the idea of going to prison in order to prove his loyalty to the cartel, but he wove off the idea as quickly as it had crept into his head. An attractive server wriggled past them with a tray of empty glasses, and Jedediah's seductive stare followed her. "I need to bless myself," he hummed. The mere thought of what he could achieve now he was out of prison left him breathless. "Is that the best you can do?" Chinedu asked with a sneer. "Get some classy chic instead." Jedediah rubbed his palms together. "But I just returned from the glass house, so I can manage anything." I can imagine." Chinedu sipped his drink and added, "But don't worry, I could hook you up this evening with as many ladies as you want." He promised Jedediah, who simply nodded. "Hey, I heard you are setting up your own place?" Jedediah said, "It's a lot of work, but it's worth it." "What of KK? Are you guys still together?" "Tighter than ever." Chinedu grinned. Jedediah recalled Chinedu's explosive girlfriend and the frequent drama that existed between the two lovebirds. The girl was crazy, but he loved her all the same because she had some wild friends whom she brought along to their wild parties. Jedediah stood up and stretched out his lanky frame. "Wow, it's good to be back. So good." He squeezed Chinedu's shoulder, strode past him, and approached the attractive server. Emanuela's protruding tummy was getting in her way, but that afternoon, she managed to help Lara fit into a hand-beaded red evening gown. The long dress was simple but elegant, with a deep V-neckline and an extended slit. When Emanuela stepped back to appraise the fit on Lara's body, she gasped, "Oh my God! He will propose!" Her eyes sparkled as the thought brushed through her mind. But Lara had learned to take life one day at a time with Paul Harrison. "Let's not get too excited," she pleaded. "But I thought you said it would be special," Emanuela said. As Lara shrugged, her soft hands stroked her dress. The bumpy feel of the crafted beads against her palm reminded her a lot about her relationship with Paul. She turned around to appraise the fitting of the dress in the mirror. "Every time spent with Paul is priceless and special. Besides, we haven't done this in a while, so I am excited and open-minded," she replied. Emanuela's palms covered her cheeks. "I hope he proposes," she mumbled. But Lara beckoned on her to help with the zipper of the dress. "I think that if we take in the sides of the dress, it will be perfect, right?" "Yes," Emanuela agreed. Thereafter, Lara took off the dress, and Emanuela hurried to put the finishing touches. It was barely 5 hours before Paul picked her up for dinner, and Lara knew she was doing a good job at pretending. How else could she explain that she had waited for Paul to pop the question with no positive response yet? But if he asked her to marry him that evening, she would be the happiest woman in the world. Godson Fregain could not take the image of Austin's face off his mind. He knew for a fact that even a blind man would have noticed the resemblance between that criminal and Paul. The mere thought of it was mind-boggling, because Paul never mentioned that he had a brother, let alone a twin. He got into Port Harcourt at 5 in the evening and drove straight to his office. His secretary, Mrs. Arvolos, sprang up and tagged behind him. "Welcome back, sir," she said. Thank you, Grace. How was your meeting? Fine, Fregini replied as he entered his large office. Braimo and Ejimbi were here. They said you were supposed to meet with them for 4 o'clock. Should I let them know you are around? Call me Harrison. Fregini said, Yes, sir. Paul looked forward to the evening with Lara. The last few weeks had been stressful, and he had upset her way too many times, so a romantic evening was exactly what they needed. As he settled down to clear his desk, his intercom buzzed. Mr. Harrison, this is Grace. Olga wants you in his office now, she said. Is he back? Yes, he just came in. I will be there. Paul met Fregini studying a document behind his desk. His thick frame glasses sat at the tip of his crinkled nose and barely covered his eyes. The man had just arrived from a 10-hour trip, but could settle into his work as though he had driven for only 15 minutes. How was your trip, sir? Paul asked. Interesting. Fregini was not smiling. He looked like he had something on his mind, and the Paul had worked with him long enough to know that there was a problem. Were you working on something? Fregini asked. I was about to leave for the day. Fregini motioned towards an empty seat in front of his desk. As soon as Paul sat, he began to give an update on work. I prepared the brief you requested. We plan to roll out a campaign in secondary schools, universities, and national youth service camps across the country. We will work in collaboration with international agencies, non-governmental organizations, and the... How well do you enjoy being an undercover agent? Fregini's question left Paul with a slight frown, so he waited for his boss to give more details, and the man eventually did. A young man was arrested at the border some weeks ago. He was caught with 500 grams of cocaine hidden in the soles of his shoes while heading to Niger, and we believe his final destination would have been Malaysia. Have they drilled him? Paul asked. Every command within the agency had able-bodied officers to tackle drug crime cases, so Paul was not sure why Fregini was telling him this story. Fregini pushed the documents on his desk aside. Yes, but the young man claims ignorance. They all do, but as soon as the reality of his sentence sinks, he will cave in, Paul said after all he had seen that happen 1,000,001 times. We have a word that this guy may be linked to Tiger, Fregini said. As soon as Paul heard that, he sat up in his seat. It seemed like everywhere he went these days, the name Tiger kept popping up. He now understood why his boss knew he would be interested. In fact, it would be a delight if Fregini permitted him to handle the case. This is the opportunity we've been waiting for. We could ask for the case to be transferred to us and immediately turn this guy into being our informant. It was normal to turn arrested drug dealers into classified informants. Anyone who was caught and found to be a useful bait had to strike a deal with the agency to become an informant or risk going to jail for a long time. It was tough to bite the finger that fed you, but that was the way the cookie crumbled. The guy agreed at first, but later changed his mind. Paul chuckled at Fregini's response. Since when did criminals have the right to choose how they wanted to act around the authorities? As far as Paul was concerned, his boss had no business accepting the guy's position. He watched as Fregini rose and circled his desk until he stood facing him. There is more to this guy, he said, and what Paul did not realize was that Fregini was looking forward to his reaction when he broke the news. The old man needed to prove that Paul was unaware of the fact that his twin was a drug trafficker, because that could spell trouble for his career. By this time, Paul guessed that there might be an unusual twist to the story. What more, sir? He asked. This guy knows you. Fregini's coarse voice was frail and drained from a stressful day. Yet Paul heard him clearly. I have been on this job for 15 years. It would not be out of place for a few of these guys to know my face, especially with countless appearances in court to testify against them. This guy is your brother. Fregene added as Paul's eyes popped and his downturned mouth struggled to find the right words. My brother? He repeated as Fregene nodded. How was that possible when Austin was an undergraduate in a university in Lagos? He was supposed to have returned to Lagos more than a month ago to his despondent life. It was something Paul never imagined until that moment, yet his immediate reaction was that of denial. There must be a mix-up. I don't think so. Do you have a brother? Fregene asked firmly. I do, but... A twin brother. Yes, but he is in Lagos. Fregene reached for a brown envelope on his desk, pulled out 2 photographs of Austin and placed them before Paul, whose shoulders stiffened at the sight of his brother's face. Austin was clearly an unfortunate twin, an ingrate and a manipulator, but he would never have suspected that Austin was into trafficking of illegal drugs. Paul replaced the pictures in the envelope as Fregene continued to scrutinize him. Harrison, I admired your dedication to your work, but if it's true that you know about your brother's criminal acts, then... No, sir. I have absolutely no idea of this. Paul shook his head. I could have sworn that guy was you. The resemblance is too striking. Fregene's voice became elevated as he recalled the moment he saw Austin. Everything, the face, the voice, the mannerism. He found it difficult to believe that Paul was ignorant, yet a part of him begged to hear him out. Tell me the truth. Fregene probed. You have worked closely with me for several years. You are a vital part of this agency, and you know what we stand for. You know what we uphold and what we shun. He pitched his forehead forward and looking into Paul's eyes. Are you telling me that you are not aware that your brother, your own twin brother, works for the most notorious drug cartel in the country? He yelled as Paul shook his head again. No, sir. It sounded ridiculous, but it was true. Fregene exhaled and withdrew to his seat. Let's hear your story, the old man urged, and before Paul could speak, he chipped in. It had better be good, he said. Paul's hands coiled into a fist and straightened. The truth was simple, but would Fregene believe it? The old man sat listening to Paul's claim of innocence. He took in all the information like a man guzzling several pints of beer, and when Paul finished, he nodded slowly. So all these years, you never looked for your brother? He asked. My mother was told he died at Butch. We never knew he was alive until he showed up. Paul took a deep breath. His job and reputation meant a lot to him, and he was not prepared to jeopardize it for Austin. Sir, my brother is an adult, and I believe he knows there are repercussions to drug dealing. I want you to know that I will not work against the law to bend any rules or distort facts to compromise this case, Paul said, but a thick moan escaped Fregene's throat. How many people know you have a twin brother? Fregene asked. Not a lot. I don't talk about it at all. In this agency? Paul shook his head. Nobody. It's possible your brother's cartel may not know he has a twin. And even if they do, we can't turn it around and take advantage of the situation. Fregene seemed like he had a plan, but Paul needed some clarity, so he leaned forward. How do you mean, sir? He asked. I'm willing to trust you much more than I could ever trust your brother, Fregene explained. So instead of taking the risk to send him back to his cartel as an informant, you will go down in there as an undercover agent, he said. Paul felt a tightness in his stomach as it squeezed into a knot. Sir, do you think? He paused and continued. With all due respect, sir, Paul thought the idea sounded raw and a bit too dramatic, like something from the movies. Put All of you are completely identical. No one will notice a thing. We just have to work on equipping you with more information to help you blend into the drug world. Moreover, you are one of my best guys for surveillance and undercover duties. I don't think this assignment will be a hard nut to crack, do you? What if Austin is not willing to cooperate? What if he deliberately holds back information that could make me vulnerable? Paul felt a need to voice his fears. The guy is faced with a possibility of 15 to 25 years in prison. I'm sure he will cooperate. Fregene was sure of his plan. He put down the lid of his laptop and assembled some files. We are leaving for Kano. Now, Paul gasped. We'll take a flight to Abuja and make the rest of the journey by road.
Thanks for watching. This story was written by Uduak, Edet and produced by Tconcepts.